big cruise update. The guinea pigs have set sail. The canary back in the coal mine. Cruising resuming in Asia and in Europe, and all we can do here in North America is just watch and hope it goes okay. Today's episode of the Lido Loca Cruise Show, let's swing through the cruise news and talk about the resume to cruising. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Tony. If you enjoy cruising and travel, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you'll be in the know, you'll be in the subscription squad, you won't miss out on any of the updates. Well, there's a lot to cover today. First, let's swing back to last week. I asked the question, what's the biggest pain point on a cruise ship? Is it embarkation? Is it debarkation? Is it the muster drill? Is it the elevators? Is it anything else? You guys spoke, and the answer was, by a small margin, the muster drill. The biggest pain point on a cruise ship is that muster process. And so good news for cruisers with Royal Caribbean rolling out their new eMuster 2.0. Maybe muster will get a little easier in cruising. I'll leave a link at the end of the video to that eMuster story if you missed out on that. Stay tuned to the end of the show for another provocative cruise question. Provocative. All right, let's swing through the cruise news. Now, one thing that's going on with the pandemic is I'm learning about a lot of cruise lines. Now, look, I don't know what the qualification is to call something a cruise line. If you have just one cruise ship, are you considered a cruise line? But I tell you what, all these news outlets, that they like to bandy that term around. Another cruise line goes under. We keep learning about companies we never heard of before, and here's another one, FTI Cruises to shut down. Anybody know about FTI Cruises before I get into the story? Let's talk about it. FTI Group has announced it will shut down its one-ship cruise brand. They are a German tour operator. They operate one ship, the FTI Berlin. This cruise ship right here, built in the 1980s, and it looks like they're going out of business. And look, before the world turned upside down, Hamilton reference, the FTI Berlin did have cruises scheduled all the way through October 2020, with trips to Northern Europe, down into the Mediterranean, and eventually to Cuba. FTI, another cruise line, bites the dust. We knew you well. Said probably no one except if you live there in Germany. Did you know FTI? It's still sad. Another cruise ship from the 80s going to the wayside. And look, we'll continue with the theme of the word cruise company being thrown around loosely. In the what the heck were you thinking news, this story comes out of Boston Harbor. Over the weekend, there was a cruise company operating a party ferry in Boston Harbor, and man, there are people packed in there like you would not believe. Hello, does anybody know that we're still in the middle of a pandemic? These people are packed like sardines on this party boat. There's no social distancing. There's no face covering. There is no regard. Maybe they were all washing their hands. Maybe that's what you can't see from this picture. But no regard whatsoever put forth toward the world situation. And why can't we cruise out of North America? I don't know. People are doing some crazy stuff. Maybe that's what it is. This boat here is run by the Bay State Cruise Company, and on Monday, the state of Mass issued a cease and desist order against the company saying you can't do this anymore. There's social media, for goodness sake. Somebody's going to see this craziness and talk about it. This is not good. We got to stop doing stuff like this, at least for a little while. Do you guys remember this country used to fight wars and suffer and stuff like that? This 4 months of just not getting on a party boat is not that big a sacrifice. That's just my opinion. Let's talk about Cruise. CREWS. I had the fortunate opportunity to talk to Carnival Cruise Director Chris Williams, the Flying Scotsman, over the weekend, and it was an interesting conversation. A couple things came to light which I kind of knew, but I hadn't really internalized it. The first one was that Carnival Cruise Line, every cruise that they go on, they have an event that raises money for St. Jude. And so if you think about it, all the cruises that have been canceled, those are all opportunities where St. Jude hasn't been getting any donations. Chris said that on average they raise anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 per sailing, sometimes more. And yeah, that's a lot of money not going to St. Jude's. He just completed a 24-hour live stream and raised well over $10,000 to donate to St. Jude. So a big shout out to Chris Williams. Good work there, the Flying Scotsman. But yeah, so that's an epiphany I had. A lot of money not going to St. Jude's, and I'm sure other charities around the world affected by the economic hard times brought forth by the pandemic. And then the other thing that we talked about is there's a lot of crew out there that, you know, they work on contract, and these contracts expired and they're just unemployed. And so Chris himself, big-time cruise director for Carnival, his contract expired. So he's doing the hustle like everybody else. He's doing social media. He's streaming. He's keeping himself out there. But, yeah, doing everything that he can to make a living. And there's a lot of people in that situation. And so if you think about it, have a positive thought for the crew out there. The next cruise story, not that great. This is another cruise company. It's a riverboat cruise company. They just notified the government that they're not able to do cruises right now because of everything that's going on, and that they would be laying off 250 employees. So more cruise crew unemployed, not to mention the people around the world. I'm bringing this up just to remind people that even though we all have challenging circumstances, there are people that possibly have it worse. Keep them in mind as you go on your next internet rant. How about that? Now, the next story is a big cruise story. It is about AIDA Cruise Lines in Germany staffing up their crew to resume cruising, bringing crew back from Indonesia and the Philippines. And this is one of those situations that will be watched closely as we return to cruising. The way that it works is before the crew members were able to travel from their home country, they had to be tested for the virus. They tested negative. They got on an aeroplane and they landed in Germany, and then they were retested before they began work on the cruise ship. And 10 out of about 750 crew members showed up positive, but mostly asymptomatic for the virus. Only one person's showing slight symptoms. So this is going to be a concern as crew members return to the cruise ship. The first thing you got to do is make sure that your staff is healthy and your staff isn't carrying the virus. This is going to be one of the things that will mess you up quickly as you return to cruising. Fortunately, the protocols that they put in place did catch this. They were able to isolate that crew, and so that's a good sign. Another good sign is that the crew will be tested frequently on the cruise ships. And while I think that's all well and good, you have to make sure that the crew is safe. There's going to be another huge population of individuals coming and going off of cruise ships. And what about their testing status? Yeah, I'm talking about the passengers. One of the questions that the CDC raised in their request for comment, their request for public comment, they had a section in there talking about should passengers be able to present a negative test or be tested before they get on the cruise ship. And right now, from what I can tell, these protocols in Europe, none of the cruise lines are employing or requiring any kind of testing of the passengers before they get on the cruise ship. It's going to be the old fill out a questionnaire. Hey man, are you okay? Have you come into contact with anybody? Do you have the virus? And all you got to do is say yes or no, and then they're going to shoot you in the head for temperature. And if your temperature is legit, they're going to let you on the cruise ship. To me, that seems like there's a big opportunity there to let sick people on the cruise ship, because while hopefully if people aren't feeling good, they would refrain from going on a cruise with a bunch of other people. But maybe not everybody thinks like that. And so without requiring some sort of test or having testing at the embarkation point, I think it leaves a big hole, a big opportunity for the virus to pop up again on a cruise ship. And just as an observer, that's not what you want. I tell you what, that first story that comes out where a cruise ship is infected by a passenger who was asymptomatic or wasn't truthful on their health form, man, the wolves that are already there ready to pounce on the lamb that is the cruise industry trying to get restarted, they will be there teeth bared. And if you have any doubts whether people will make good decisions when it comes to getting back on the water, let me just show you again this picture from Boston Harbor over the weekend. I think this is going to be a big hole. I think cruise lines are going to have to address it. I've said this in several videos. I also think the cruise lines are going to have a very robust response policy if an outbreak occurs. How are you going to get people off board? How are you going to keep people isolated? I think those kind of plans are going to be essential as cruising resumes. And cruising has indeed resumed. I called the people guinea pigs. Absolutely. There are plenty of people that are willfully ready to get on a cruise ship. I don't mean anything disparaging by calling them guinea pigs. I am thankful for their desire to test the waters. And it's going to take people jumping on cruise ships that are going to prove the model, to prove the health protocols But yes, I mean, for many of us in North America, these sailings that are going on in Europe and in Asia, it will pave the way to the return to cruising in North America. So I'm thankful for that. I don't want anybody to get sick. I don't want anybody to take the virus less seriously. So let's talk about it. 1,200 passengers getting on the Mein Schiff 2 in Hamburg, Germany for essentially a cruise to nowhere. They did leave German waters. They went up to Norway. They sailed around the coast of Norway, beautiful views. But the cruise ship did not port, did not stop, just took about 1,200 passengers. They had hoped to sail with about 60% capacity. The 1,200 passengers, less than that. That ship holds 2,900 passengers. They had a health questionnaire. They had temperature checks, no self-service of any kind. And the main rule of thumb for interacting with other passengers is you had to stay at least 5 feet away from each other. And in instances where you cannot stay 5 feet away from each other, you have to use a face covering. You got to mask up. These are the simple things that health officials in every country are recommending to reduce the spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently, stay distanced from other people, and cover your face when you can. Just 3 simple things, and 1,200 people on this cruise ship in Germany getting it done. They left Hamburg on Friday. I think they returned yesterday, so I'm looking forward to hearing more information as to what that first cruise was like. I'm sure they will be watching it closely to see if anybody got sick, and if so, this becomes number 1 in the test case for can people cruise in the middle of a pandemic. You know, that concept is blowing people's mind. Cruising is a luxury. It is a non-essential activity. But if there are feasible ways to do things of luxury, to do things that are non-essential, why wouldn't we want to do them? The whole world is trying to get back to normal. And if there are things that we can do to return to a normal life, just these 3 simple things, why not do it? Why fight it? Let's try to get there. I'm excited, but like the rest of the world, I'll be watching to see how this turns out, and hopefully it bodes well. Just in case you missed it, a little bit of a programming note. We're now doing 2 live shows a week. My lovely wife, Jenny, and I, we get together and we talk cruising and life together for an hour. We do that on Sunday afternoons at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we also do that on Tuesday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern. Join us if you can. Now, I promised a provocative question, and I feel like I have one today. This is probably going to be more around brand loyalty than anything. Let's imagine the tragic world where one of the big 3 cruise lines has to go away. I won't use any more negative language than that. Which cruise line of the big 3 would you like to see go away? Would it be Carnival Corporation? Would it be the Royal Caribbean Group and its brands? Or would it be Norwegian Cruise Lines? In a world where you've got to drop 1/3 of the triumvirate, which would it be? Thanks so much for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please show your support by hitting the like button. My name's Tony for Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.